I'm Josh LaHaye, the owner of CryoHeat Metal Treatment. I'm here with Bob Bell, the owner of Precision Concepts. And we're going to talk about what Bob has seen as being the owner of the company and team manager.
Yeah, actually Robbie's the team manager now.
Oh.
I'm team manager's dad.
Oh, that's awesome. But basically when it comes to the maintenance of the bikes and being able to have the eyes and the ears on the actual engines and everything that makes the motorcycle go, it's all about you.
Yeah, myself and Phil and John in the back were the mechanics. Yeah, Robbie runs the team from the organizational standpoint, but all the mechanical stuff, building the bikes, making sure they finish races, and the guys get stuff they need to win on, that's our job.
Awesome. Okay, so give me a quick rundown on how the bikes would normally perform before you got with CryoHeat Metal Treatment, and then obviously talking about what you've seen since we've been working with you.
Well, basically, we've been building the Cowies for about 6 years now. We're on our 6th year, and we have a lot of good history on them, and they've been pretty durable and everything, but certain things we noticed when we switched to the CryoHeat, like in the past, 2012 was probably one of our biggest disappointing races, where we made it 1,000 miles in the Baja 1000 going to La Paz, and we had an engine failure. And that was pretty catastrophic for us because we were within 15 seconds of leading the race, and we really felt strong that we could have won that one. And so other things we had, like just little things, we always test. We have some GPSs on the bike, and we had one of our bikes at the Elsinore Grand Prix hit 92.5 miles an hour with one size larger front sprocket, so it was geared slightly taller than stock, and we thought that was a pretty good speed and stuff. So these are kind of some base things that we've had. The bikes were always, pretty fast and stuff. But when we started doing the CryoHeat, just a couple things have happened. I mean, one, we had a race this year at the Baja 1000, or this last year. It was 1,275 miles instead of 1,050, so 225 miles farther. Bike ran flawless to the finish line. I mean, and everybody said it was the fastest bike we'd ever built for Baja. So, shifting was super smooth. The thing never overheated, never had to put any radiator fluid in it, barely burned any oil. In a race that long, those are pretty high standards to meet.
Absolutely.
And then we went a few weeks later out to the Adelanto Grand Prix. Had a stock geared bike, actually this bike right here, bone stock geared. We didn't even go up a tooth on the front. And next thing you know, he does 94.5 miles an hour with a stock geared bike. And so, the only thing that can account for that is a very free revving, very friction-free motor, because we didn't have any more modifications done to the motor.
Right.
That was it. It was just, so that was really impressive. There's that we can't say enough about that. I mean, that just shows how smooth and free revving is. The bikes shift smoother than they used to. The wear on the internal parts is reduced. We're just really excited about. I mean, we got basically free horsepower and free durability, if you want to say it that way, from not having to buy any other parts. Just treat the parts we have, and we increase speed, durability at the same time. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Now, our retail price for these motocross bikes and the ATV engines are only $350. Do you find that to be extremely cost-effective as far as spending any type of money whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at some of the modifications, we've tried over the years to try to make the bikes faster, and it's always a struggle to become more durable, because especially in long distance races, or even just, you want to keep a bike that'll last more races without having to be rebuilt. And when you look at what you spend on stuff, I don't want to go through some of the products on the bike, because there's some good products, but at the same time, where do you go with stuff to get in? When I was talking about this, when you're talking about $350, even $500 to get the kind of performance gain we got, and the fact that we don't have to rebuild our motors as often, we're saving. I don't even know how much. I have to do some calculations, but we're saving at least 50% or more than we ever used to when we used to do it. And like I say, all we did was treat the metal, and we got more. We got 3 miles an hour, 3 to 4 miles an hour more speed out of the bike, which is, I don't know what performance modifications I could do to get that.
With the same gear ratio.
Yeah, with the same gear ratio. That's the key. Normally, you get more horsepower, you gear the bike taller. then you go faster.
Right, and then you wear out the parts faster.
Well, yeah.
But then with CryoHeat, you're actually basically doubling the lifespan of every part of this motor.
Yeah, and when we used to have to rebuild the motors, and anybody that's rebuilt a 4-stroke motor knows the expense of these things. I mean, it's not inexpensive, and to stretch that out to a much bigger, you know, time period to where we have to do it and how many hours we can put on the bike is huge for us, because, you know, I mean, money is everything, trying to keep the team going, trying to win races and everything, and when you can spread this out more, it's huge. And, you know, I always talk, because, you know, all my life I've, you know, paid for all my own stuff and done my own thing from the time I was a kid, but if we could have had better durability back then, you know, I wouldn't have had to mow so many lawns. I mean, this is a no-brainer to me. I mean,
absolutely.
It really has, it's really been impressive to me, because I'm a guy that you have to verify everything with. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that's just like, oh yeah, give me this, I'll put it on and tell everybody how great it is. You know, and you know, when we first started, okay, we put in Rowie's motor, and you kept saying, how's it look? I said, I haven't had to take it apart yet. How's it look? I haven't had to take it apart yet. And I can't really tell you. It's hard for me to go out there and tell everybody how great it is until I actually see it.
Yeah.
But over the last year, we've seen it.
36 hours of abuse on the hour meter.
Yeah.
And yeah,
we could have kept going.
we have the video of us, one of your mechanics and myself over there, video recording the tear down and some of the parts. And yeah, as far as a race bike and making a living on the bike, those parts, I can understand why they wouldn't go in the bike. But absolutely for this, to look at it and go, these parts look perfect,
Yep.
and let's put them in the practice bike to save money is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I talk to guys I know some factory mechanics, and, you know, they get 15 hours, 18 hours, they're tearing apart complete motors and stuff. And then you get to the supercross level, of course, that's, you know, way crazy. But these guys are off-roaders just like us. We're racing against them, and they're rebuilding their motors. For every motor we rebuild, they've rebuilt theirs 3 times. That's how nervous they are about it. I am absolutely confident in our bikes that, you know.
And how many races did Robbie win last year?
I know at this point right now, he's won 11 of the last 12 races he's entered since October.
Yeah.
So that includes 24-hour events at Glen Helen, it includes the Baja 1000, Vegas to Reno, actually was in August, but Vegas to Reno. You know, I mean, some good races, all the best in the desert races this year, the first 2. He's won the first 3 works races. He's, you know, won a big 6 this year. He's, you know, it's just, yeah, he's kind of on a roll. That's been good, because I'll be honest, you know, I'm looking for times when I can tear the bike down and go through it. And he was basically racing every weekend for 3 months. And I just said, all right, this is going to be the real test, because I don't have time to pull this thing apart and replace any parts. It's just got to keep going. And that motor that did that 94.5 miles an hour, that bike probably had at that point about 30 hours on it. It wasn't like a fresh motor and everything was perfect, but it ran like a brand new motor. I mean,
I've showed some people the piston that came out of that bike, and they were blown away.
yeah.
Yeah, they were absolutely, completely amazed. A few people said, I'm surprised this piston even lasted that long.
Yeah, most people don't realize it. You know, they think, oh, we stretch top ends a long ways. With this treatment, we can do that. We basically just do a leak down on the motor, and if it blows less than 10%, it's virtually like a new motor. And the thing never went more than 8%.
Wow.
I mean, we, literally speaking, you know, at 35, 38 hours, whatever we were at when we rebuilt this bike, we didn't even need to. I mean, but we had to take it apart to find that out. And yeah, it was pretty surprising. And you know, we're talking about speeds too. I mean, the highest speeds we've ever attained in Baja itself was 103 miles an hour. The last 2 Baja races we've hit 106. Same exact motorcycle, same exact engine, same exact chassis, same exact pipe. I mean, nothing changed other than the CryoHeat. That was the only difference we made. And we're out there, we picked up 3 miles an hour.
That's a huge difference.
And it's huge at that speed too, because there's so much wind resistance and stuff trying to push through the wind.
Right.
It gets harder and harder to just get 1 mile an hour when you're up over 100, and to gain 3 miles an hour. You know, it's. I mean, I'm, you know, I can't say enough about it. I mean, it's blown me away that, you know, we've been looking for this kind of performance for a while, and it just came with, you know, I didn't have to change the motor. I just had to treat it.
Yeah, now, With your experience from with the temperature zones, the different types of temperatures that these bikes run, especially at these extreme speeds, racing in the desert, even when it's hot outside, what have you noticed since the CryoHeat treatment?
Oh, they definitely run cooler. Yeah, I mean, both the, doing temp checks on the radiator coolant as well as on the cylinder and on the engine cases themselves. And we're finding, I mean, it varies obviously with ambient temperature and how it's affecting it and everything, but it's basically 20 to 30 degrees is what we're finding, pretty consistent. And that's the coolest thing. I mean, like I say, a Baja 1000, 1,275 miles, we didn't put any radiator fluid in it at all, never even checked it. When the race was over, the bike cooled down, we checked it, it was still right to the top. So that bike never got hot during that race. And we've noticed that on all our bikes. I mean, this bike right here, he just did that race in Arizona. I mean, radiator fluid is right to the top. These things run so much cooler because, and again, friction reduction. It's kind of funny because being an engineer-minded guy, that's what we always look for, whether it's in suspension or motors or anything. And it's pretty amazing to me that, we've hit a lot of the things we wanted to do. We've been trying different radiator fluids, we've been trying different, oil and all this kind of stuff. And when you get a treatment that actually takes care of a lot of the issues that you were trying to find these other things to fix.
You take the Band-Aids off, so to speak.
Yeah. It's, but I mean, that's what's been the coolest part of this thing is, we've always been trying to keep our bikes running cooler. There's a temperature range they need to run into. I actually almost start to worry if it gets too cold. Well, we got to get this thing up to temp. And if that's your worst problem, that's a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. I'm glad that we are working together because you're an awesome testimonial. The amount of research that you guys put into these bikes and the amount of racing, and then the proof that you guys have with these pro riders out there that are winning races constantly and just absolutely torture testing these bikes is quite amazing.
Yeah, that's what, it surprises people all the time how many hours we actually end up on these bikes. We've got bikes with well over 200 hours on them that we still race, and we just rebuild them when they need it. And but yeah, the amount of hours we go through, I mean, just like our fuel supplier, I mean, we tell them how much fuel we need for the year, they're just like, whoa. It's like, yeah, we rack up hours.
Yeah.
And so I always like to feel that we, from the durability standpoint, we are right there with the average consumer that, we buy our own parts and, for our team. And so we have to, we want something that'll stretch that budget out as best possible like everybody else. And when you can do this and at the same time, get performance. It's like, I sound like a salesman for the company, but how can you go wrong? It's just like, I've been looking for something like this for years, and it's been great. Like I say, I'm a pretty skeptical guy, but
very.
Yeah. Yeah, you remember
very,
when we first got together. I was kind of like questioning everything and stuff, but I'm not one that just jumps on any bandwagon. There's been stuff on this bike that we tested, and there's been a lot of things we tested that I never used because I just didn't see the difference. And I can't see enough. And again, using our chains or sprockets, our brake pads. Like I say, the chain we had at the Baja 1000, the company wanted to see the chain after the race, see how the durability on it was. Well, we had already raced it in another race after that, and then we've raced it in another race since then. And my first comment was, well, can you replace it? Because the chain's still good. I don't need to replace it yet. Because I buy another chain. It's like, no, and it's and you think about that. We raced probably 2,500, 3,000 miles on that thing now, and it's still good. There's no reason to change it yet.
Yeah.
And it makes the sprockets last longer. Brake pads are holding up better. There's no squealing. I worried about, treating them, is it going to squeal or do something weird, going to change the structure when you brake?
Actually run quieter, don't they?
Yeah, there's no squealing in our brakes whatsoever. The brake pads last longer. The discs actually aren't wearing as bad. It's, every time we put it in something new, it improves that. So.
I remember when you guys were asking questions about what CryoHeat is going to do a treatment on internally for the motor, and when I started talking about the clutch plates,
Yeah.
and I remember everybody's eyebrow lifting a little bit, like, really?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how many clutches have you guys gone through? It's so many, and yeah, that's a part that is definitely going to wear out. But can you explain to what you've seen as far as the after the treatment, what the clutches are working like?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I always worry, is it going to change the structure? Because here's a thing that needs to slip when it's apart, but it needs to really grab goes together again.
Where you actually want friction, so it
Yeah.
actually grabs.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, but if this is a friction freeing up process, what's that going to do? Just like on brakes, I was worried about that too.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been a downside, and obviously, I used to change a clutch at the very minimum every 2 races. I mean, we were okay, just because a pro rider really running the bike hard, they would wear, and stuff. Since we put them in, it's just we take them out every race, look at them. The rider says they're working good, put them right back in. Robbie just completed his 3rd works race. We rebuilt this motor. We put the same clutch back in. We didn't change the clutch plates because we couldn't come up with a reason to.
Yeah.
Normally I'd be like, well, we got the motor part, go ahead and put a new clutch in it. But it's like, why?
Why?
It's fine.
Yeah.
And then he just won the last one. So, I mean, it's working. Which,
right.
again, so, like I say, I mean, I expect anybody to be a little skeptical about some new weird treatment that, you freeze and then you heat and stuff. And I've known about freezing stuff for a long time. I know about, heat treatment I've always heard about, but I didn't know what it all did,
Right.
But I can only go with results, You're the expert on how to actually treat it. How does it work on what we need? And like I say, the clutches are lasting. And, at this point, I'd say at least twice as long, maybe longer, because we're still,
Still in it.
You're still in it, trying to find out when it's going to wear out. But at least twice as long at this point. So,
Good.
and that's what, I mean, if you're buying your own stuff, I can understand people, I pay an extra amount of money, I just bought this. But if you more than double your life, and it doesn't cost.
What's the clutch cost for one of these bikes, roughly?
Roughly $200.
$200.
Yeah.
So our treatment retail for a clutch basket, outer basket, all the plates, springs, and the pressure plate basket, the inner basket, is $75.
Yeah. I mean, and you're gonna gain on that too, is the durability of your clutch basket and your pressure plate and your clutch hub. All that will last longer, because anybody knows if you run stock lights, we run the Recluse, which has been obviously a very good clutch, but even the stock clutch, I mean, they wear out. You start getting notched and everything, and then the play goes away, and then the feel isn't as good. They don't engage as good. It'll greatly, because we've had some stock ones in the past when we did it lasts far longer. But the clutch plates alone, if none of that even mattered, if your clutch plates just lasted twice as long, you just saved $125 by getting the treatment.
Absolutely.
And then you add into that the other parts that'll last longer. Again, I'm a very budget-minded guy. I have to deal with the budget of the team, and it's really helped us a lot. I mean, I just don't have to, and there's zero performance downside to it at all. That's the weird thing, because normally you gain something somewhere, you lose something somewhere, and then how much did it offset? There's no downside. Your bike runs faster, it runs cooler, it lasts longer. I mean, geez, I sound like a salesman.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, the only downside is somebody has to ship their parts to CryoHeat, and it is a 75-hour process. And some people don't understand that. I have a client that wanted to come down from San Francisco and watch the treatment. And I said, well, let me give you a quick education.
Put up a bunk bed
it's
there.
about 75 hours, and I'll let you know where the kitchen and the refrigerator is at the shop, because you're going to be there for a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that's what we've talked about, and I've talked to you just recently, but, people want to get stuff CryoHeated if they want to need a new chain and sprockets, if they want a clutch, or rebuild a motor. I mean, just anything they want to do. That's what we're looking at, is trying to say, okay, how can we offer this to people to give them the benefits of this without, how do I deal with this and stuff? If anybody wants to buy a chain and sprockets or, other parts for their bike and have them cryo, we can either have the stuff in stock, or we can purchase it, send it to you, get it CryoHeat it, get it back, and be ready for them to pick up when they want it. It's already done. They just come pick it up. So it's try to cut down on what I think a perception of the convenience factor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And-
Literally stocking or planning ahead with these parts. The parts that wear out really fast. That any guy, for the most part, that rides a motorcycle is able to change out sprockets and chains and
brake pads and stuff.
Brake
like
pads,
that.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a clutch, and that's stuff and it's common because they're wear items that people do replace. And so, yeah, and that's what we had planned to do. As time goes on here, if people are more into it, and we keep promoting the idea of it is to help, because that's our business. We have our race team, and we do stuff, but people always ask me, what can I do for that? What should I do for that and stuff? And this has become on that list now of things that we highly recommend doing. And we've had a couple teams already start to use like CryoHeat in their motors and stuff. Baja 1000, the person, the team that won the 30 championship in sport, Mark Winkelman's team, they had a full CryoHeated motor at the Baja 1000, and they won the championship. And everybody said at the finish of the race, again almost 1,300 miles, it was the best running bike they'd ever ridden and built for them. So, and that's unsolicited. They just come up and say after the race, giving us input.
And that was not a Kawasaki, was it?
That was a Honda,
Yeah.
Honda CRF 450X.
Yeah.
And so those are really good feedback, because they pay for the treatment. They're wondering, and they're not going to just toot a horn by, if they don't feel it was worth it, they'd say it because they're trying to save money. And when they come in and say that bike was great, it was the fastest bike we've had all year, and it ran flawless to the finish. And Mark Winkelman himself, the owner, said, he said he usually gets a bike at the end of these long races like this, and it feels kind of wore down. And he straight out said to me, he said the bike felt like it was still fresh. It was the best riding bike he's ever ridden to the finish. So again, I can't say enough about that motor and that bike, because we're not splitting it. It's going to keep going. It still runs good. We pressure tested it. It's still holding really good pressure in the top end. So it's saving him, a lot of money, because otherwise you'd have to rebuild that whole motor, which anybody, again, 4 strokes, $2,000 to rebuild a motor.
Yeah.
And so he's pretty excited.
That's awesome. Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bob. I really appreciate your time.
Sure. You're welcome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.